The motto of this panel is Uniting Industries for a Circular Tomorrow. Oh, I see we're having Joe join us. Perfect. Joe, I don't think you need the headset. Yeah, we are working with mics here, so please do take that off. I would like to start with a very simple question to all of you, which is how important is it to cooperate between science and industry along value chains, cross industry? So simply give us your assessment on this collaboration topic. How important is it on a scale between low, medium to high? Carla, do you want to give it a go first?
Try it. Excellent. Thank you for that question. I would give it a clear, I would say, 6 out of 6. It's only possible when we can get these networks running. It is about really getting the best ideas. I mean, we heard from many of the speakers that what lies ahead of us is really a massive transformation, and it's only possible when we work together. That is industry, academia, and politics, because we need also the right framework conditions to make this happen, not only in Europe, but also globally.
Perfect. So we got 6 out of 6. Holger, staying on the same scale maybe?
Yes, for me I think it's very high. So very high is easy because we have to bring together, it's the same like Carla said it, the big industry, the researchers, and I think very important the small and medium enterprises, because they are the supporter for the industry to bring all the components together. So it's very, very important.
Karin, almost needless to ask you that question because it was all about the cooperation. So let me immediately jump to Martin. Martin, importance of collaboration also in relation to
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10, okay, we are increasing the scale.
And you see that just in our own firm, the collaboration of different disciplines, as I just pointed out, is so high. And the issues are so complex. No way that anybody can solve it. I think the biggest challenge is probably to include the consumer and the end user in that game. We talk just about industries and collaboration between industries. The consumer needs to take his part in this too.
Rebecca.
Perfect handover, thank you. So 10 out of 10, of course, as well. And much has already been said, complexity and scale of transformation. And maybe also to add, not to forget, all actors that need to collaborate. We've got science here today, we've got industry. Of course, I represent NGOs that can play a convening role and platform, and also pull in society, like you just mentioned, in the transformation that we need. So, yeah.
Okay.
Hi.
Joe, is there anything more important than collaboration? Or would you also, so first of all, would you also give it a 10 out of 10? Or a 20 out of 20, or is it something else which more comes to your mind?
I really like the 6 out of 6. I've never heard that before, but yeah, I would agree. It's key. As I said on stage before, I do think we are in a new era of collaboration. I think that applies to pre-competitive collaboration, or between businesses, but advocacy work as well, making that more specific. Which policies are we trying to really address over which time frame? And I think it applies to NGOs as well, actually, and how aligned we can be, or more aligned we can be in some of our efforts to really target specific implementation challenges.
So I think it was great to hear that we are in violent agreement that it is of utmost importance to cooperate. Now comes my second short introductory question, namely the question, how far are we on that way towards cooperation? So we said it's important like that, but how far have we come? And this is no scientific exercise, obviously, but so Carla, is it more, have we gone 10% of the way, 50, 90? So you are cooperating a lot, but yeah, is it in a nascent stage or already mature? Almost accomplished?
So I would say you can really see over the last 5 years that not only the product performance counts like in the old days, but that topics around sustainability really kick in when you talk about what is needed for a product with our customers. So that's why I would say, if I stay for the 6, maybe we had a 3 to 4 when it comes to aspiration, going to maybe 5, 6, depending on the company, depending on the region. In the implementation, maybe we still have a longer way to go. We have heard a lot about the topic of economic feasibility, and I think that is the biggest challenge currently. How do we get really from these pilot projects that are showing that it's technically possible to an economically feasible solution in many areas. So it depends, as a lawyer would say.
But you say so at the aspiration level of getting in contact, that is, we have gone halfway, but on the implementation level, we still need to. Okay, Holger, what is your perspective on how far we got?
I think it depends is the best answer. It's everything between 0 and 100%. I think my feeling is the big companies which are global, they have more experience, more possibilities. The small companies are in a local network. They have not the possibilities and not the awareness. That's also a problem. So I think it's everything between 0 and perfect.
Would you have an example of perfect for us? Of perfect collaboration? Okay. glad to hear.
Yes.
Perfect. Karin, what about you? How far have we come in terms of really going the way together towards cooperation?
I would agree with my previous speakers. We were around 30%, 30 out of 100 if we use that scale.
30 out of 100, yeah? Okay.
Yeah, 30 out of 100. We can see initiatives growing, but we can also see there is still regulatory barriers, short-term economic priorities, and definitely siloed thinking is still around. And once we overcome that, we could move on to a deeper integration of actual collaboration. But we see good examples around, and I think we are on the way, but definitely we still have some way to go.
Thank you. Martin, your gut estimate of...
So as innovation happens always at the interfaces between industries and disciplines, I would say collaboration is rather low, probably below 20%, because I think we have been discussing these issues for the last 10 plus years and we are not progressing. So there is no breakthrough. And I would say that's due to limited collaboration. But there are on various points good examples. As I pointed out, our thing with the flexible paper coating, no way that we could do that as Heidelberg on itself. No way that a chemicals company would come up that. You need to have some different disciplines there. One other example where I think collaboration works perfectly. In Heidelberg, we have got our home of print, and large global brand owners, companies you all know, come there to collaborate and work with us, with paper manufacturers, with color suppliers, with our experts to come up with the newest material for certain packaging solutions and so on. So there you can see how collaboration can work, and there you join forces to bring out something new.
Rebecca, you gave us a lot of food for thought and calls to action. So your assessment on how far we got in collaboration.
I'm a little bit in two minds because we already heard a lot of positive examples, but really I think we're not far along yet. I think there's a lot of collaboration going on bilaterally, but if we look beyond the value chain, right? Like there's companies collaborating with their suppliers or their customers and trying to create new products, finding partners, like scientific partners to reinvent or innovate on products. But I think beyond that, what I was saying earlier in my speech, we need to think of the circular ecosystem, the policy requirements we need, and especially the infrastructure. So, for example, strategies like reuse or repair can really work. And in that sort of collaboration space of the ecosystem, I think we're not far along at all. And we really need to kind of up the ante there.
And Joe, last not least, so you're in the business of networking.
Thank you. Yeah, I would agree with the point that I think in terms of intent, 8 out of 10, implementation, 2 out of 10, I do think there are some bright spots. So I would say that the work that has been done around the global treaty and advocacy work around plastics is pretty extraordinary in terms of a set of businesses who have a large footprint, who are really advocating proactively for regulations that will change the rules of the game for the industry. So I think collaboration that has a very specific advocacy intent is a great example. The other example I would give, and I'm sure there are many of these, is more of a sort of innovation infrastructure. So the Aspen Institute set up a project called Project Zemba, and its intent was to increase the capacity of sustainable freight fuel, so bunker fuel. And they did that by aggregating demand from a number of purchasers, so Patagonia, Amazon, a number of businesses were involved, and they got sizable demand, who agreed to a price premium that then went to the market, and a freight forward contract was made that guaranteed the freight provider a premium if they were able to deliver a certain carbon performance of their shipping. So that provided the investment security for the supplier to go on and invest in the feedstock, the infrastructure to create the feedstock. That didn't involve policy, right? That was just individual companies coming together, aggregating demand to solve an issue in a specific, at serious volumes, but with a specific focus.
Thank you very much for that example. I'd like to come back to your individual presentations, and Holger, starting with you. 32,000 people in Fraunhofer, 76 institutes. Basically, you can cover anything in applied research, but now if I'm sitting here in this room and I'm an industry player and I want to connect to this huge organization on a very practical level, how can that work? Because it may be overwhelming, yeah? Not knowing where to start, how to find the specialists. So in terms of very simple advice, how can one connect to you?
That's a really, really big question. I can say if Fraunhofer knows what Fraunhofer knows, that is one of the problems, but I think every big company has these problems. And really advantage in Fraunhofer is that the 32,000 people are hungry. They are hungry. They need the market. They go out and they are looking for their partners. So I don't want to say, wait, if we are coming. That's not the right answer. But I'm sure that we will come in contact. We have our networks intern, we have our homepage, and it's difficult to say. But if you have really a problem, call me.
Okay, well, that is a promise. So if you really got a problem and don't get any further, call Professor Hanselka himself. Yeah, so that is a promise I think we should take serious. Perfect. Thanks a lot. Clara, you showed us this impressive number of customer industries that BASF serves. So you deliver into ag, into automotive, into construction materials, into consumers. So quite naturally, you have a lot of connections already where you work across the value chain. Now, I would be curious, are there any, let me call them out-of-the-box industries that you would be interested in, which maybe you're not working together with, but where you would be interested?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Let me point out two thoughts or share two thoughts. One is definitely everything that's in the area of digitalization. So these are not our usual suspects when it comes to collaboration partners, but of increasingly important. So whenever there is also the digital part of it, it will now be part of the game. That is number one, but number two is coming also to collaboration with academia. You would think that we collaborate with the chemical institutes, the chemical partners at Fraunhofer, for example. But we see now to tackle these topics, we need to think also there out of the box. So we have just, or not just, so EU project was started called P-Cycling, and you have also the opportunity to hear about this later. Why do I say this? It's 17 partners in 9 countries for 4 years working on the topic of recycling for various value chains, including textile and appliances. And we do work together, or one partner is the Fraunhofer Institute for packaging and process engineering. So not the usual suspects also here, not the chemical institutes, but the institutes that is needed to tackle the recycling topic. And that is why I think out of the box partnerships are really crucial. But it needs both. It needs the, I call it collaboration along the value chains, because we have to make sure that the products, like Martin Sonnenschein said, that the products are bought finally by the consumers, but then also to bring in the new technologies from all areas.
Thanks a lot. Rebecca, jumping over to you. You had those numbers from the impressive study that you did on circularity in Germany, where you said, well, greenhouse gas emissions can come down 40%, recycling rates can be increased 30%. So there was a lot of ambition in that, and a lot of very hopeful potential. And you showed us your really big toolbox. Let me call it a toolbox that WWF offers. So besides this collaboration topic, what are the most important tools which you would recommend us to take home?
Maybe I start with briefly mentioning on some of these tools that we also create all of these tools and guidelines and cooperation. So one example being the strategy guide we mentioned that we jointly wrote with UN Global Compact Network, but there were several companies, including BASF, for example, who gave feedback on the draft. So, you know, this is really important for us. In any tool that we create, we get feedback or we pilot it with businesses and involve many scientific information. The study that you just mentioned, Bottle Germany, was done in collaboration with Eco Institute and Fraunhofer Easy, for example. So, you know, for us, that's part of our DNA to collaborate and get information. I think the attitude behind that also that I want to mention in terms of cooperation is that we all should assume we don't know everything, and that's why collaboration is also key. But coming back to your question, sorry, remind me. I had another thought in my mind that I wanted to cover. Was hast du mich gefragt?
So basically the question was, what out of your toolbox is the one or two tools that you really would recommend? Yeah. I think we always have a similar problem. We have an overwhelming supply of options, but at the end, when we want to get something done, we need to focus on one or two things and then do it. So is there something that is really dear to your heart where you'd say, hey guys, if you take home one or two tools from WWF, it's them?
I mean, I really think it depends on the maturity of the company, or also, you know, maturity of policy or whatever we're talking about. So it's not really easy to answer just blankly. But maybe the two things I mentioned today, Model Germany really showed the potential of implementing circular economy across all our strategy, across all circular strategies. And so to me, like at least for Germany as a roadmap, it's the key study that I really love everyone to read, to really realize we need to get away from just focusing on waste management and recycling and really move up the slowing strategies and really implement these. So that's what I hope for. And the second thing, of course, as I mentioned in the presentation, we need corporate circular strategies that are more, that are deeper, that are impact oriented, and that are really implemented across the business. So, of course, that's why I'd love you for all of you to read the strategy guide that we just published recently and that I presented earlier.
Perfect, Karin. I would like to pick up one thing that you said. You said we need to move away from competition to co-petition. And we need to move away from being lonely wolves to hunting in packs. You said that has made us successful as mankind, and in a similar case. So this now needs to take place. If we are looking into the relation between companies and the regulator, which historically was some of the regulator and the regulated. So can we get into competition also between politics, administration on the one hand, and industry on the other hand? Or is it in the nature of the beast that is difficult?
The nature of the beast. I think we are all social animals to begin with. We are no beasts. Basically, we're social animals. But sometimes we fight for our lives. And this makes us beasts. What I would like to see more is to move businesses and the public sector moving more from this regulatory-driven relationship into a co-creation relationship. And there are manifold ways to do that because, as I pointed out, we can only do this together, not against each other. And there are several ways where we could work together. I pointed out a few, but there is also, for example, what we definitely see that we need is regulatory sandboxes. We need to create room for innovation, for things that would be possible for companies to do, but the regulation is not fit for it yet. And we see there is a big need that the regulator learns together with companies what is possible and how would policies need to be restructured, adapted, newly created to make that innovation that we need to see possible. And I think there is a great potential to collaborate on this. Also, for example, joint standard settings. Who are the people who are setting the standards actually? Because it's not coming from government or administration. It's standard boards, norms are created by actually business people. And if we come in with this mindset that we need to reorganize, recreate, adapt standards differently, business has a major role in doing that, and therefore can be a creating partner in this new, building this new economy. Industry advisory councils. That would be something that we in Austria are happy to have the task force, which I'm leading. And we have industry in the task force together with 5 ministries and together with NGOs, with with civil society, but also science. We try to identify the barriers, the hurdles together. We try to bring all the knowledge to the table, but without any individual or organizational lone interests. So the mutual goal, and this is important in these partnerships, is to set a higher goal that goes beyond the single organization or the single person or the position, but set a higher goal and then find ways where everyone can contribute. And this is how we draft recommendations. For the government, we can only draft recommendation. The decisions, of course, need to be taken somewhere else. But this is how business, how industry can contribute. And now in March, we will have an open meeting of the task force where we invite some 80 businesses from different sectors to come together and inform the task force. What is it we need? What is it? Where are the barriers? And I think these kind of councils, or however you call it, task force council, whatever it is, I think this is one of the ways to go. And all of the partners need this co-creation mindset, which allows them to share information, share data, be transparent. And therefore we need to build trust. among each other and not see ourselves in a diminished position as being regulated, because there is so much more power in industry, and we know that. We know that there is power. We just need to allocate it to the right places.
And if we do that, it will be beneficial for all of us. There will be profits to be made, profits to be shared. And this makes me turn to you again, Joe. You said initially you were trained as an accountant. Did not want to follow down that road. And you also mentioned that there need to be market unlocks to come. So if we are moving into this circular economy, which we all want to have, how can from the corporation value be shared? So assuming we unlock one or the other market, and then there is money to be made and we all cooperate. So how do we distribute that? So what is that a challenge? I mean, or are we running into prisoner's dilemmas then?
There's a lot of prisoner's dilemma stuff in my mind. No, I don't think this is about planning and sharing in that sense, but I think this is about creating the conditions and the rules that allow competition that will drive progress in the right direction. Just going back to your question about engagement between business and policy, it's obviously a totally different context. But if you look at the industrial policy China has had over multi-decades around positioning for the energy transition and essentially being the supplier of the world's renewable energy technology. I mean, that, you know, if we think about, and not always necessarily at that level, but that's what it's going to take in terms of an alignment of industrial policy, alignment of investment, alignment of business innovation. And competition is good. Competition should be celebrated. That's what drives entrepreneurship. It drives innovation. So we shouldn't be shying away from the competitive element of this. We want to be pushing into a place where the competition is driving the right outcomes. And at the moment, because of the rules of the game, the competition is not driving the right outcomes. It's driving negative externalities. So the question is, how do we pick battles where we think we can get the right policy and the right business innovation in place so people can compete hard to win the market? For example, I don't know much about the region here, but obviously in Germany it's a massive manufacturing hub for Europe and the world. Remanufacturing is a huge market opportunity for the EU. So the EU recently wrote the Clean Industrial Deal document, and they said there's a €100 billion market by 2030, remanufacturing, and it can create 500,000 jobs. So what's the industrial policy and the business innovation and the investment that's going to drive the creation of that market within the EU? Compete for it. Great, that will speed it up.
Well, great that you came here. You just said you don't know much about the region, so you definitely should get to know it better, because it's the Circular Valley for a reason, because it has this industrial heritage. It is Europe's largest industrialized region, and if you add Belgium and the Netherlands, this is really the coming motor for the circular economy in Germany. There's obviously, Clara, other very important hubs. Yeah, there is this island in Ludwigshafen, which is the largest chemical site in the world. But besides that, this is here the mothership of circularity. Martin, coming to you, you said there is 10,000 parts in only one machine, and I understood you need 4 of those at least. So there is thousands of parts, thousands of partners you cooperate with on the supplier side, but also on the customer side, and you already touched upon that. But what is at the heart of the cooperation strategies that you at Heidelberg operate? Yeah, to manage this huge ecosystem of partners in supply and on the offtake side.
Obviously, there's a lot of trust and professionalism in each of the partnerships. I think that would stand up. But there's secondly, and I would like to talk on partnerships in terms of innovation, there needs to be a clear economic reason behind it in each of the decision. When we look at the example I just gave to you with the flexible packaging, it needs to be clear. At the end of the day, we want to make our business with this. We create new material and a new process of combining coating and printing in one process, so that it's becoming really a new Tetra Pak even, you could say so. There's clear something behind with an economic reason for both partners. And if you start in a partnership at a very early stage not to have the clear economic and joint understanding, don't start with it. Just having complementary competencies doesn't make it. It clearly doesn't make it. So full stop. And that's also with our suppliers. If they don't earn enough money with us, they won't deliver the quality. So it's a lot of economic reasoning in selecting this. Another aspect on the regulatory side, there will be one time coming, and I hope I will be part of it, where regulators see that they don't get to what they want to achieve. And with that, they reduce regulation. And I think that's what's needed for innovation in all aspects. So let's have a very capitalistic approach to solve something that is very sustainable. That would be in the deep of my heart, to be honest.
Perfect. Now I got a question to all of you, and don't know who maybe wants to start first, but it was something I picked up, Carla, in your presentation when you said BASF has now looked at the portfolio and you want to approach it from the market side. So once the market pays for circular solutions, you are there to provide them. And you gave us one number in that you said in, I think, 2030, you expect demand to exceed supply. So at latest, in your industry, in 5 years from now, you say this may become commercially viable. But do we have those 5 years? Yeah, can we more or less sit and wait, given the pace at which the world moves currently? So look at China. China's gross domestic product, purchase power adjusted, is bigger than the one of the US. So China has risen from a developing nation 30 years ago to the number one in the world. And it will continue that path, not only in linear economy, but also in circular. Then you have the US on the other hand. While they are super in tech, in the conventional industries, my perception is they are even somewhat behind. So there is a reason why they are taking all those protectionist measures. So between those antipodes, a China which is skyrocketing, the US which is becoming more and more protectionist, do we as Europe have 5 years to wait until the market picks it up? Joe is saying no. So Joe, yeah, grab a mic and.
I mean, I think basically you've just answered your own question, really, right? I don't think we do. I think we are behind the ball and behind the curve on it. And to your point, Europe is also it's disappointing because Europe is extremely well placed in terms of the regulatory environment, actually supporting some of these clean energy technologies, sustainable solutions. You know, it's a very friendly environment for this. Europe should be leading, actually, some of the innovation that's coming out in terms of the tech and new materials and the demand, the consumer sentiment. So no doubt we need to accelerate. And I'm not a geopolitics expert, and it would be interesting to hear what other panelists think. But the current context, I think, is forcing an issue on what is the long-term strategy that the Draghi report talking about growth. What is the growth narrative for Europe? How are we leveraging those core assets and capabilities? And my personal belief is circular economy has a very strong thread within a competitive vision for Europe. But the policy environment, the investment, the support of innovation, the demand side pull, that all needs to be looked at, and more conditions, stronger conditions need to be in place to support the solutions that are there. There are solutions there.
Carla, any chance to expedite that process? I mean, I know you gave that 2030 number, and I used it to start the discussion. But anything we can do to be faster, to make the market?
Absolutely. I mean, it's perspective over the next 5 years, but I think we have different levers, and it's definitely, from my point of view, also about bridging technologies. So there will be not a big bang. It will be not like 2030 and then all the demand is there. I think it's very depending on the industry, but it's also depending how we can leverage already existing assets and bring in, for example, renewable raw materials into our value chains, bring in renewable energy. We could increase the share of renewable energy from within the last 5 years to now, 2024, 26%. And this is really amazing how fast you can also get on these developments when the market opportunities are there. So we have either invested into wind parks, or we built our own solar parks. So there are possibilities. And then it's a question, when are we really embarking into these circular solutions across the industries? And definitely it's a difference if you have long-standing products like automotive applications or textiles, or maybe products that are very frequently used. Let me add one, if I may, to point to that topic of regulation. So I think these sandbox approaches are really important, especially when you think about circularity and when you think about waste. And that on a global level. So today, due to a very good reason, waste management is very highly regulated, and bringing waste from one country to another is very difficult. And that has good, as I said, that has good reasons. But think about recycling plants on a larger scale. When you think about this monomerization, so getting the building blocks out of the polymer and then use it again. So then you might need to bring waste across country borders. And when we would have there, for example, a kind of sandbox set up to test it, I think it would help to think about what is needed in terms of regulation to make the circularity in these industries happening. So I think there are many areas that can expedite, coming back to your question, the implementation. And I think we have to really work, I'm a strong believer, across these value chains, together with all partners that are involved, because then we bring also more power to the discussion and to the market.
This sandboxing and cooperating across borders you described, is that an opportunity for Europe, or is it rather a disadvantage, because we still have all those borders and we have the national regulations? So is China, are the US, are they in an advantageous position to us, or is it actually something we can turn into an advantage?
I think we can turn it into an advantage when we start thinking about how we can tackle it best and what regulations can support us. And I think this you can experience best when you try it. So that's why we are really supporting the sandbox approach, so that we can work together with all participants that are needed and shape the regulation together in a way that makes sense from all different angles. It's not about getting rid of all the regulations. It is also about developing them in a way that support, for example, reaching our circular targets.
Mm-hmm. Joe?
Yeah, I think it's a great example, and this sort of shift from a more, I guess, traditional adversarial zero-sum game approach to actually something that's more co-creational. And of course, the big fear with all of this, if you're sitting from a policy perspective, the unintended consequences of making a change, that what does that drive somewhere else in the system? So this idea of sandbox, co-creation, creating some space and flexibility for innovation, it feels really key. And I think that also brings it to a level of specificity. So it's which issue, on which borders, of which category of waste that we need to look at that enables a stronger investment case or makes a more economically viable solution. It applies to movement of waste, but if we want to realize a remanufacturing industry, that also applies to movement of things today that are classified as waste, but that are actually have at a component level will be completely fine and could be disassembled and reassembled. But the economics of that, you need to be able to have a regional view on where you invest in the infrastructure to have the economies of scale. So I think it's a great example, and we need more.
Karin?
And also, let's not forget that China is a one-party political system with a lot of stability, which is not always a good thing, but in that case, for their long-term strategy, it certainly is a good thing that they have the political stability, which the US has never had, and now to a great extent does not have it any longer, whatever has been left over by it. So I think Europe should be by far more self-conscious about what we can do, our innovative industries, and we always have been innovative. That's industry's advantage to lead through innovation. None of us has asked for bigger cars, none of us has asked for little pocket computers. We cannot put everything on consumer demand. As much as we are driven by it economically, we have to find them, but we also have to take them along into the future. Business and industry has always been a multiplier for innovation and for new innovative products, structures, whatever it is, new demands. We can drive demands. And I see a big opportunity actually for big industry to create those new systems of behavior for customers in it, not just by buying products and throwing them away, but by creating systems where they can, share, rent, pay-per-use, product as a service, to have new possibilities where they can access products that may become more expensive in the next years because resource gets scarce. And I think there is a lot of potential that we have in Europe to grow through quality and innovation and not match ourselves over quantity with China or the US.
And this connects to a point which I picked up in one of your presentations. I don't exactly know who said it, but we need to train ourselves in systemic thinking.
Yes.
I really like that picture. Now, if I look down this row, each of you is representing really excellent institutions. Carla, the biggest chemical company in the world. Holger, the biggest research network, definitely in Germany, but maybe also even beyond that. So each and every one of you, or Rebecca and Joe, and NGO organizations. So in uniting industries for a circular tomorrow, how can that work? Do we need someone to stand up and become something like an orchestrator, like BASF could say, okay, we're the biggest chemical company in the world, we deliver into all value chains, let's orchestrate. Or Holger, you could say, well, we are researching everything and we are so much deeper into the topics than many of the downstream companies. We could be the orchestrator. Or Karin, you could say, well, no, let's step aside. I'm more in a neutral position. Let me do that. So on a generalized level, and this is an open question. You can say, well, maybe it's a stupid question, but do we need some more structured orchestration of this unification process, or is it something which will bilaterally or multilaterally somehow evolve as our thinking progresses? Everybody, please. Yes, everybody.
Okay. I think for one orchestrator, maybe it's a too big task, yeah. But I think we need hubs. We need, and if I now look at Germany, at Europe, we need hubs that create ecosystems. Because we need to bring together the people, but we also need to bring together in a certain way the assets. And so that's why I think there will be not only one hub, there will be more hubs needed. And in these hubs, I think there's also this orchestration possible. And we had recently a discussion with another hub, the CTC in Leuna. So the Center for Chemical Transformation. I think you need this complementary hubs. And that's why I think events like this, but also like Circular Valley hubs like you create, is really crucial. And bringing all the necessary players together, that is really what hopefully will make the difference. At least I'm a strong believer of this.
Obviously, as Circular Valley, we are happy to hear that. You say there is a right to exist. Thank you very much, Carla. Holger.
Yes, good question, difficult question. I think we don't need one orchestrate. What we need is, I think, leadership. We need strategic leadership. And your idea to have it in some hubs is good, to bring together the people. In the end, it's all about people. To bring together the people who want to change something. That is important. And that is a group of people. That's not one person, that's not one place. It's different places, different hubs, but bring together the people who want to change something. That is important. And therefore, we need people who are able and who are willing to go in a kind of leadership.
Fully agree. So you definitely need the people, you need the group, and that is why we are all here, and that is why you are cooperating, why you are collaborating. Perfectly agreed. Now, the ignition spark, that is, I think, sometimes the question here. Who is it then? Like if you went out of here and said, oh wow, that was a cool panel, I want to do more. Yeah, I think in the end, one of you would need to stand up and say, hey, Holger, and Karin and Carla, let's do something together. So I think, but if I fully agree, we need the collaborative partnerships here. Yeah.
But I think I can say for us, we do something together, and we meet us in the past and in the future. So that's it's going on.
Oh, fantastic, Karin.
Well, let me pick this up as I'm from Austria, from Vienna. I have to bring this to a musical, metaphorical level now here. Imagine there would just be one conductor and one orchestra. And let's take the Vienna Philharmonics, great orchestra, but where would be music in the world if we would only have one conductor and one orchestra? And we have beautiful experts who can play the violin or play the cello. Each of them is a highly recognized expert, but it's so important to have them all over the place, because what would be the world without music? And we need small orchestras, we need big ones, we need the solo violinists in places. It's so important that in many places, whoever feels that there is a void takes a leadership role and says, let's come together and make this music work. And whether it's small or large, whether it's perfect or imperfect and just fun, it needs to be done. And this is, I think, the way to go. We are especially, and I can speak for Austria and Germany, we are especially focused on perfection. There will not be perfection in the beginning. We need to experiment. We need to have our trials. And yes, we will fail and we will get up again and we will try to do better. But this is the way to go. This is how you learn to play an instrument and become a great orchestra. Also, if you have to learn to play together. And yes, there is someone who can conduct that. That's beautiful, because it helps you find your lines and play along and bring a beautiful piece into the world. And this is, I think, the way to go for industry as well. See yourself as the violin who plays the tune, but as a part of the whole economy that we want to thrive, that we want to flourish. And actually, this is the same in every country, no matter what political leaders say. This is what people want, this is what businesses want. They want to flourish in peace.
Martin, flourishing in peace.
Great question. I think we need to have competition everywhere. We need to have different hubs, different clusters, different ecosystems that all drive for economic good reasons to progress and to do good. That's one thing. The second, I like your metaphor. Our society is not ready for change. That's the biggest issue. The society is not ready for change. And your orchestra is nice, but it needs to emotionalize the entire society. So we need to have more soccer probably, or in the States more football in terms of thinking. Same principles.
Same principle.
To make the world moving faster in that way. So obviously we are talking a very intellectual and very practical on certain things, but the world needs to move and we need to emotionalize the entire topic. And once we are able to make change, to increase the willingness and ability of people to change, I think the industries, whatever businesses we are in, are able to take advantage of it for the good of it.
Very beautiful.
Rebecca, you are somehow standing on the sideline observing all the industry activities, the political activities. Maybe you're also standing in the center, so not mistake that, but you are not industry yourself, you're not politics, you are advising. So what is your advice to us on how to get this unification towards a circular tomorrow going stronger?
Well, actually, as NGOs, we do play quite a critical role in convening actors. For example, over the last few years, we had a project with the buildings and the automotive industry where we brought together actors, 40 organizations, to discuss what is needed to really shift towards circular building and circular automotive industries. And this kind of convening role, I think, is also something that really we need, similar to what Circular Valley is doing here geographically, but really trying to kind of set the bar high, like show where we need to go, and then bring actors together that include business and science, and kind of moderate this discussion and really keep pushing where we need to go. So I don't see us sitting at the guidelines of what Joe was saying with the UN Global Plastics Treaty, you know, where we're convening businesses to support the treaty. So yeah, I mean, not seeing us at the sidelines, and maybe also to the point of what we need. I think as much as we're talking about collaboration, I think, for me, it is key, but also now I'm starting to think the more we talk about it, it's also about right sizing.
Right.
Like, I don't think we need to just collaborate for the sake of collaboration, right? Like sometimes bilateral partnerships are enough, but I think as the more complex the problem is, the more collaboration we need.
Joe, you want to come in?
Yeah, I was just going to
Very
say,
briefly.
I think for me, specificity is really important. And just going, again, sorry to keep talking about the treaty, but to go back to the treaty, so the EMF and the Ellen MacArthur Foundation and WWF have a partnership around the business coalition for the treaty, and that was really leveraging both organizations' assets. So WWF has an amazing global network of to engage with policymakers around the world, far more extensive than our network, and we had a very strong business engagement on the topic of plastics. So when you can have very specific strategic focus, you can really unlock the capabilities of the organizations in the field. The one thing I would still say is that we're still in a bubble. I mean, this event is amazing. I'm really looking forward to learning. Typically, these are still the kind of the people willing, self-selecting, coming here, right? We work with ministers of the environment, largely. Yep. We work with chief sustainability officers, largely. So actually, the tent has to get much bigger. The bubble has to get much bigger.
Absolutely.
So even the orchestration within this, we've also just got to grow the scope.
And I'd love to continue this discussion to how to make the bubble bigger, but the clock is running down merciless. So one last question, and please, one short sentence for an answer. Who would you like to reach out to here, and who would you like to reach out to you from this very diverse group of people here? Maybe going down, Joe. So who is it you would like to talk to, and who should approach you?
I mean, I'm here all day. I'd love to speak to any of you and learn more.
Okay, perfect. Anyone.
But I'm
Rebecca.
also looking forward to speaking to some automotive companies as well.
Automotive. Okay, automotive for Joe. Rebecca?
Companies we can support in the transition and the transformation, and also I'd love to hear about stories of failure, because the stories of failure give us hints on what we need to change, what systemic changes are needed, and this is what we want to work on. So
anybody about failures? Talk to Rebecca. Martin?
Packaging material experts.
Perfect.
Anyone who's into building unusual new alliances.
Unusual new alliances. Holger, you invited anyone to come up to you in terms of connection besides that?
Not anyone.
No.
I said when it's really important.
Okay.
but I want to be in contact with people who want to change things.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah, and for me it's digitalization.
Digitalization.
Both ways.
Perfect. So you definitely are the people wanting to change things. I thank you so much for making it here, for being here, for that super interesting discussions. Looking forward to continuing that bilaterally. So thank you very much, and a big applause for the panelists, please.
Thank you, Carsten.